So coming back to this question of, imagining, and you're sort of calling into being, in a sense, these experiences that, that you've been training for. Is it just delusional? I mean, how do you separate if you hear a voice, for instance? How do you know whether that's a real voice or whether it's just delusional and you're having maybe a psychotic episode?
Again, not my question, or at least I don't answer the question of whether God ever really speaks. But I do have a lot to say about the experiences of psychosis or madness and the experiences of religion. I think it is, and I want to start with an argument I don't agree with. That argument would say all of these dramatic experiences, they're caused by a deficit. Whatever deficit is going on in psychosis and schizophrenia, not that we know, and there may be more than one, and maybe there's so much. Anyway, whatever is going on in schizophrenia and psychosis, there are at least many people who do not have that going on, as far as we can tell, and who have spiritual experiences. I think there's at least one other pathway. I think sleep is a third pathway. And we don't, there are people, different people have theories about what may be causing this. But for sure, because of my conversations with people, because of my immersion, because of my interviews, and because of our experimental work finding a relationship between absorption and spiritual experience and porosity and spiritual experience, I think you can make a claim with some confidence that many spiritual experiences are not the result of incipient psychosis. There's something else going on.
Right. But on the other hand, I mean, there are these, famous stories in the history of mystical literature. Christian mystics, Saint Francis of Assisi, Teresa of Avila, who heard voices.
Of course.
So the question is, were those religious experiences? Were those psychotic experiences? Can you parse
They can
that?
be both. I mean, one of the things that the Bible gives us a pretty good example of somebody who seems to meet criteria for schizophrenia. I'm not diagnosing at a distance. I'm just telling you that the narrator seems to Ezekiel seems to display some characteristics that make him look as if he could have been psychotic. I'm not making a claim about whether he existed or what the narrator intended, but Ezekiel seems to you could claim he hears commands a lot. They're pretty weird commands. They are. He seems to hear people talking, and they're not present. You can at least advance an argument, and some people have done this. The Bible would tell you that God can use, if there is a God, God can use many vehicles to prophesy his word. So that's not the deep question. The deep question is, well, I think what we can say with confidence that not everybody who hears voices is psychotic. So first of all, there's a lot that goes into the word voice. These are these experiences that feel as if they are not me. So you talk to people who've heard a voice. They've been called by someone. They feel they have heard God say out loud, "That's not the one." Maybe they've been up for a job, and God says, "That's not the one." So people say about these experiences, "It doesn't feel like me. I really didn't have my voice timbre." Often they say, I don't know where, they say something odd about where it's located. Sometimes they say, "I heard it audibly in my mind," or "I heard it in the world, but not with my ears." There's something a little odd. The voice always has an intention. It doesn't feel like listening to music. It is a mind that is communicating with purpose. Some of these experiences are fully audible. Some of them are not. So we know that these are not so uncommon in the broader community. They are not always associated with psychosis. At least I would advance that argument strongly. It can be hard to tell whether somebody who hears a voice is or is not psychotic. That's a different question. I can tell you on average, there are a lot of people who have, in general, if somebody is psychotic and it's obvious that this person is ill, they hear a lot of voices, those voices go on for a long time, and they're pretty mean. The evangelicals, magicians, whatever. When people who are not obviously mad hear voices, typically the voice is rare. They can remember a handful of auditory experiences at best. Typically the voice is no more than 4 to 6 words. And typically the voice is kind. The voice is doing something useful.